Today on Cyberbytes, I'm joined by Hannah and Henry, co-founders of Geordie. Geordie is one of the most interesting startups in the rapidly growing AI security space. We get into the Geordie story, why now is the moment for AI security and how they define and measure risk. Plus, some of the biggest misconceptions that they're seeing in the space and what CISOs and CIOs are really looking to solve when it comes to securing AI. Enjoy.
We're live. So this has been a long time coming and it's a pleasure to have you both on. So Henry and Hannah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us. We're
Super
looking forward
happy
to
to be
this.
here.
I mean, you brought it up on one of our first ever calls together, and you've been trying to lock us in ever since. You've done a great job.
I know we've made it, right? We're finally here, and some exciting news over the last couple of weeks, which we're going to dive into.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Things have been full on.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of fun over the past few months. Since we really started to work on Jordi. But yeah, we came out of stealth last week.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing since to kind of tell the Jordi story a bit, but also just keep speaking to more and more security teams. Like that's what we're here for. And you have something to anchor back to now, which obviously we didn't over the past few months.
It's like the secret mission, but now it's out.
Yeah, exactly that. It's like, what are you working on? Well, I can tell you. Let me get to your website. Oh, you don't have one.
I can't tell you.
I can't do any research in my own time. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for now. Nice. The story's out. So what I want to start with the podcast and always do is just dive into your backgrounds a little bit. So maybe Hannah, if you start, give the audience a introduction to you and your background.
So my background is a little unconventional, I think, for security. So I started in government intelligence, did that for about just under 10 years. And I worked across the US, UK, NATO, Five Eyes, and lots of interesting stuff. But most of it was really focused on data and how do you structure analytics? How do you really test a hypothesis? How do you know that the source of your information is good? And lots of different roles and functions within that. But that was kind of the core red thread, if you will. And got both my degrees while I was in government and was really interested in psychology, how humans think, especially as it relates to security. So how people make decisions and how they can make better decisions. And all of that fit into my time at Darktrace. So I spent a lovely few years there, built out their threat research team, worked in analysis. So led a couple of teams there, helped build out some of their product success function and really focused on customer engagement almost the whole time. So what are customers dealing with? How are they applying AI? What are they doing well? Where areas that they can kind of sharpen something or help them understand? Because sometimes AI can be so abstract. And then all of that fed into my role at Jordi. So Chief AI Officer, co-founder, very happily speaking to customers all the time about AI agents and really focusing on how they get that benefit of applied AI, because that's really the unlock.
Yeah, and Henry, great. We'll dive into certain bits.
Well, Hannah's the superstar, so we can just keep talking to her. I always say every time that Hannah speaks, almost every time, I learn something new. So we keep diving into her. But Henry Cover, the CEO and co-founder of Geordie. My background is unconventional as well, so I can talk about that. I went to Bristol University, did management and economics there, had a load of fun. Built a model that helped football clubs recruit managers.
I love this one.
Yeah, this is not going into cyber straight away, is it? So did that for a while, had a grad job, somewhere less exciting. And I'd done some work with the guys at Cambridge United Football Club. This is so random, isn't it? People won't expect this. Did some work with them to recruit a manager. I built a model that basically helped football clubs think about whether a manager could transfer their performance from one football club to another. It was a statistical model, had loads of fun doing it. And the CEO there, a guy called Jez, he called me up one day and he just said, do you want to come run the business? And I thought, I'm a bit young to do that, aren't I? But then about 2 minutes later, I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's go and have some fun. So I did that for a while. I was COO at the football club in Cambridge. And I got to know the Darktrace team.
At 23. So just
23,
put the in context.
Yeah. What were you doing at 23?
I was
COO of a football club.
I was the youngest exec of a professional football club or professional club in the UK at the time. But I mean, we're not like big for ego and stuff like that. That's not us. So it was fun, right? The principal reason I did it was because it just seemed loads more fun. I was going to get experience in running teams, leading businesses that I knew was going to be something I wanted to do in future. And even though it definitely didn't make financial sense and, for other people might have seen it as unconventional, I just thought, yeah, this would be great. And also, I think when you get on board with people who believe in you especially early in your career, you want to stay tight to them because they can really accelerate your career. And I had that in Jez, who was the CEO. And then I got to know the team at Darktrace really well because, you know, Darktrace was in Cambridge, you know, pretty, even at that point in time, you know, pretty, you know, shining light for a success story, local tech success story, and also in the UK generally. And I got to know the team there. The COO was on the board of Cambridge United, and eventually he said to me, let's go and like get you plugged in over at Darktrace. We really, you know, have some more fun. And so, yeah, I was at Darktrace for quite a bit of time. I did so much random stuff over the years. Moved out to the States. I was COO for the Americas. Came back, was led global business operations, and did a whole lot of stuff. And that again brought me to Jordi, as we'd seen the power of kind of autonomous AI in impacting businesses positively. And we could then see all of a sudden with what was going to become possible with agents, that actually that could impact a lot of other functions within a business, a lot of other processes. But your kind of Darktrace cyber hat, that you put that on, and you thought, oh my gosh, there's quite a lot of risks that will come with that, and businesses are going to need a lot of help unpacking the benefits of it, which brought us to Jordi. And finally, Benji's not here, the CTO. I mean, he is the wizard. So Benji was one of the senior engineering leaders at Sneak. He's had a lot of success within the kind of UK tech scene. Then was at MindGuard as VP of engineering. And all of our early engineers have worked with him across one of the companies he's been at, whether that be Unruly, where he led engineering ad tech firm, and then at Sneak. So yeah, we're a team of people that have come together in the UK. We also have some people in the US now too, but come together, having worked together before and gone, this is like a really important problem. Let's do like the best work of our career here.
Yeah.
And that's what brings us all to Jordi.
Yeah, I love it. And keen to dive into the why.
Yeah.
So obviously very analytical background, at the face of customers, talking about their problems, and then similar role, but doing bits and bobs and leading things at Darktrace. Why do you think the time was right for Jordi?
Yeah, I think you know, you could see what was going on within AI when, you know, GPTs first were on the scene 2022, 2023, and the impact they could have. And you could see that now would be a moment of real technological change. And it was increasingly feeling real, you know, with the introduction of ChatGPT and things like that. And you thought, okay, there's going to be problems that people are going to need solved that are new, that they haven't been dealing with, especially in the security setting and background. And I think for us, you know, for me personally, I spent a lot of time with a lot of CISOs, just talking through how they were thinking about AI security, but then specifically with agentic security. And we spoke to some early adopting organizations and got some really interesting perspectives. It really, at the end of the day, it came down to people being in two camps once they got into adoption mode. You had the CISOs, again, we spoke to loads of them, who were looking at the technology and saying, this is incredibly powerful. The business is saying, let's look at how we can bring AI agents into the business to help optimize our supply chains, optimize our marketing functions, you name it. People were thinking about it. A lot of pressure from on top, from the board, CEO, for adoption of agents. And they're kind of looking at it and going, there's way too much risk here, and we lack the ability to really know what an agent's doing, where are they within our organization, and what risks are they creating, and then, you know, having the capability to manage that risk. And so we are going to try and put a blocker on this, and that makes complete rational sense, you know, and we understood that. So you had this camp of people kind of saying, we can't step into innovation with agents. And then you had the other camp where the businesses had really gone for it. And we had some, you know, wonderful early interactions with some who'd brought in consultants to bring in agents to manage their entire revenue lifecycle management process. It was really having, you know, notable impact for the business from an ROI perspective. But then there were board audits, or, you know, there were internal assessments, or maybe coming in from insurers from the outside who were saying, how are you managing the risks? How are you understanding what agents you have? What are they doing? And the answer, or quite often, they would put themselves in this camp, not us. They'd say, we put the cart before the horse. So you had this moment with agentic innovation, we spent a lot of time on it, where you're kind of going, so if the two options right now are no, and that's not going to last very long, with the power of the technology and the impact that it can have within a business, or put the cart before the horse, there has to be a better path. And fundamentally, risk management and security of agents is I think one of the core problems in terms of, you know, bringing their value to the enterprise. And so we wanted to find the middle ground with what we were building at Geordie to really help businesses embrace agentic innovation, whilst knowing that the security teams are the one really at the coalface of managing the risk. And therefore we went and thought, let's go and help there. It's a really exciting problem with an exciting outcome if we get it right. And we said, hey, let's go and do our life's work.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I feel like it's like what you guys are doing is it's an enabler for growth and adoption, right? I'll get into this, but I also want to rewind. But the risk element to what you guys are doing and how you're measuring it, you don't have to give away all the secrets. But like, how does that actually work? How are you mitigating that risk element?
I think there's a huge portion of the cyber risk that's pretty well understood. So you're operating with a lot of the same core elements. You have data, you have users, you have access, you have roles, and some of those core elements kind of cycle into the risks that you have with AI agents, right? Like they're ultimately little digital third-party employees that are operating within your environment. They're doing actions and activities on your behalf. And so you have some of those existing problems, but then you have new problems that are a little bit more like human risk, where you're starting to look at operational risk. You're not just looking at access control and understanding data systems, but you're really looking at how are their goals going to change over time? How are the decisions that they're making not only impacting the employees around them, but also impacting the goal that the business set them? And how does that deal with their outcomes and ultimately the return on investment? And so you have this kind of complex area of amplified risk that if you just look at it from kind of the traditional lens, you miss the part that makes it agentic. You miss the part that is the autonomous decision making. And that's really the most important part, like Henry was talking about, for unlocking the business benefits. And so you have to understand it in the context of that autonomous decision or that delegated authority.
Yeah.
And I think for us as well, that point around the enabler, like that's so important to us. In so much of our time spent with design partners, prospects, early customer type interactions, a lot has come back to, you know, how do we help security and IT teams as well, but security teams principally speak the business's language at this crucial moment? How do we help them understand the context, even when maybe the business doesn't, so that they can play a really important role in partnering with the business to bring about the benefits of innovation? And, you know, that's been a core part of our product and also our engagement with customers. You know, ultimately, how can we help you at this key moment play a really important role in your business to bring about innovation? And, you know, we're not trying to come at this from a, you know, maybe a perspective others have done over time of saying, this is really scary. There's loads of risk. We can help save you from that risk. Actually, we're looking at the opportunity and saying, we can help you access the innovation. You know, there's a real upside here, and we're here to partner with you on that. And sure, we're in the risk management game, so you know we're not trying to you know, apply any less focus to that. We've employed some of the best people that we think are out there to help build out the risk intelligence engine. But that's not our focus from a product and an engagement perspective. It's let's see the positive benefits for your business, for your security team, for your careers at this point.
You put brakes in a car to help it go faster. And you have this, we talk about this all the time, you have this unique opportunity at a technological revolution to implement governance and security at the start, where pretty much every other time we've had to go back and retrofit and try to fix things once it's already in motion. But we have this opportunity now where we can actually say, I have oversight, I have governance embedded, and I have secure design at the beginning of what is going to be a complete transformation of how we work. Like agents are the future of work. And so this risk piece isn't to say, don't do it. It's the opposite. It's to say, let us help you go faster, but let us help you sustain your pace. Because if you try to just immediately deploy everything and you don't have any insight into what's happening, you're naturally going to have to either walk it back or accept that you've put the cart before the horse and the risks are out there.
Yeah, as you say, because else these companies, 2-3 years, they're going to be coming back and back and back. They can go enable and build as we go. And obviously enterprise adoption of AI is just going to increase, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. And the story, because I love this.
Yeah.
You've got to tell everyone the story of Jordi. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think, you know, we spent some time thinking about a name, right? Everyone does. And you tend to land on something that's maybe not that exciting.
We had a lot of late night conversations back and forth about, what about this? No, what about that?
The WhatsApp channel, just
constant.
There was a lot of that. But when it came down to it, we could see what was becoming and would in future be possible with agents. be really transformational, right? In terms of now you had agents who could complete tasks within businesses which previously only humans could. And that could unlock, all kinds of operational leverage for a business, get people working on things they actually want to work on. In lots of cases, there's lots of like kind of administrative operational grunt work, which maybe wasn't even being done or not at the pace that you wanted it to be done, which agents were really, or were going to be really good at handling, especially when we first started kind of talking and looking at this. And we draw a parallel with the Industrial Revolution, right? During the Industrial Revolution, we unlocked so much operational leverage for society. We went from our hands and our horses to all of a sudden like railways powered by steam, and then electricity came to the fold. And you had this moment whereby there were loads of risks and we were able to unlock the operational leverage. Yep. But coal was really important in powering the Industrial Revolution, right? Steam, electricity, it all tended to come back from coal. And there was a new risk really, which you couldn't see with your own eyes as you were mining coal. And that was as you mined coal from the walls of coal mines, not just coal would come with it, so too with flammable gases.
Sure. And
flammable gases would build up in the environment. And at the moment they built up too much, the concentration was too large, explosions, right? Horrendous for the workers, horrendous for slowing down innovation. It was a massive, massive problem for the Industrial Revolution. So, of course, mankind came up with technology to help us solve the problem. And mining lamps were created throughout the world to help deal with that. Geordie Lamp was an example of that in the northeast of England. And a really simple concept, right? At the moment the flammable gases built up too much, this new risk that you couldn't see with your own eyes, there was a candle inside the lamp. And really, really simple. Flammable gases build up too much. Candle, out. What that did for the miners at the time is it gave them line of sight into this new risk that they couldn't see with their own eyes, so that they could handle the risk and then, deal with it, manage it, get up out of the mines, and then get back to really powering innovation. And we saw a similar moment with agents. All of a sudden, you're empowering your business to work with agents. You're running, with lots of people that we've been spending time with, you're running hard at trying to innovate here and try and see the benefits. It's fantastic. I mean, we see it a lot with coding agents, right? Whether it's Cursor, Windsurf, Claude Code. Adoption of that has been incredible in engineering organizations. But you don't know where those agents are. You don't know how they're configured. You don't know what they're doing. Therefore, you don't know what risks they're creating. And then even once you know all of that, you don't know how you're going to deal with those risks. Yeah. And so we created Jordi fundamentally to serve a similar purpose, right? Of giving you that visibility and that understanding, and then really going the next step and enabling you to manage that risk and deal with it in ways that don't just rely upon humans. Yeah. So that's really the kind of inspiration behind the story. And, we like telling it.
I love it. It's just, there's so many parallels though. It's like the analogies I feel like is just great for like, not so much, well, selling in general, right? And just and helping paint a picture of what you guys do. And it's like bang on. So whoever came up with that one, or a team effort, that's
I like to take more of it, but Hanah will occasionally pull back. I think we're very happy co-founders. So
we'll say the team.
We're okay on that front. And Benji, of course, he's not here. Benji's too humble.
We're forgetting Benji and all of this.
Yeah, he's a very humble guy. But that's really where it comes from. I think it also helps, right? So you go out right now and you're with your friends, maybe down the pub, or you pop around your mum's for dinner, whatever it might be, and you tell her about your business. If I tell her about, we are helping enterprises manage AI agent risk.
What are you talking
Well
about?
done, Henry. Well done. No further questions.
Good job.
Thing. But as soon as you tell the story of the Geordie Lamp and draw that parallel, it helps people get it. And sometimes, that also just helps the speed, even with conversations with security and IT teams, with which people understand what we're trying to do. And like, really importantly, the problem we're trying to help people solve.
Well, and I think it's really important because people do tend to understand things better in metaphor. Like, you can apply it so easily and you can say, okay, that's why we need to introduce governance now so that innovation can happen. It's not just, it's a tick box somewhere, we have to do this. Someone somewhere told us that we have to have this series of worksheets, and so we're going to complete it. This is how we're going to go faster. This is how we're going to unlock all those goals that we put on our strategy sheet. Like, that's how we're going to get there.
Yeah. And hopefully we're going to see the Geordie Lamps in black hats and RSAs. Go on. Everyone's going to be seeing them flying around.
We'll get you a t-shirt if you like.
Themselves are actually quite expensive if you've looked into it.
Incredibly expensive.
Maybe it's an idea that's already put
yeah,
out
no,
there.
we were like, they're way too expensive for us. I mean, like, we're pretty prudent people. So yeah, they're quite expensive. It was a really good moment though. We got on a call recently with a guy, a great company, and he said, "Come on, tell me the Geordie story. I think I know where this is going." So we told it to him, and he went, "Do you know, I've got one in my loft." He said, "I've got one in my loft."
You had to go and get that, surely.
Well, yeah.
Family heirloom.
It was a family heirloom.
From the mines.
Yeah, from the mines.
Wow.
A genuine Geordie Lamp. So
cool.
I did, offer to buy it and lowballed a little bit, and it turns out he knows how much they're worth.
So he's clued up on that.
Yeah, a couple $100 he's not in for it.
He wasn't having any of that.
He was not having it.
Yeah, priceless family heirloom, couple $100.
Yeah, tough decision. And then, so Hanah, keen to ask you on this one. So you're obviously in front of customers, speaking to customers. That's what you do. That's what you're great at. Yeah. So 2 parts to this. What are they seeing? What are like the major problems that they're seeing with the Gen AI risk? And then also, like, do you have any like metrics you can give about Jordi and what the results are from potentially leveraging what you guys are building?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing to say is that this isn't happening in a vacuum. So security teams already have a lot to get on with. Yep. And then they're also being asked to help the business to enable AI, to enable agents, to build all of this extra function on top of their day-to-day security challenges. And I think that's not always remembered, is that each of these new security milestones is massively important to the business. But it's also coming on top of a SOC schedule. It's coming on top of existing vulnerability patching. Like, that all has to happen still. And I think one of the other pieces that's really important is that AI adoption is a whole of business challenge. And so what security teams are being asked to do sometimes is take something that might be someone else's project, might be someone else's, proof of concept, might not be something that they've had any kind of insight into up to this point, and then not only de-risk it, but also make sure it's operationally functional and enable the business. And so I think there's a big challenge around, there's a lot of formation of AI governance committees and, AI steer codes and helping to shape what the use cases are for the business. But sometimes security teams aren't able to be as empowered and as informative as they want to be in those rooms because there's a lot of lack of data. They don't necessarily have metrics to say, this is how risky this vendor is versus this vendor, or this is how we should prioritize these use cases from a data perspective. So I think they have that challenge. And then they also have the challenge of really trying to make all of this functional for a large group of people. So you're not just dealing with technical teams. You're not just dealing with people who can code. A lot of previous technological leaps have been with really technically talented teams. They're people who could kind of figure out their own solutions or at least troubleshoot. This is everyone in the business. This is HR. This is finance. This is people who've maybe not had a super technical background. And then they're using this amazing, innovative piece of technology that lets them 10x their workload or lets them completely change the way they do a process.
Yep.
And so security teams have this kind of, what we've talked about, that innovation versus risk balance. And they also are kind of operating with a lot of blind spots because they don't have data on what the risks mean. So one of the first things that we really wanted to focus on was giving them that practical, tangible data to say, this is how many agents you have in any of these providers. This is how many agents that you've built. This is how many agents you have in code. And then across that, how risky are they just from a configuration perspective? Look at posture management. And immediately that provides so much insight that they can then go make decisions and also help shape the strategy for the business, but with data rather than just having to try their best to prioritize and to keep things on track. And then another big piece is really looking at, okay, now that we have an understanding of how many agents we have, what they're configured to do, what they're capable of, what are they actually doing? What are they up to? How are people using them day to day? And what are they performing functionally for the business? And how does that success metric look? And then you can really start to get interesting risk intelligence in there. You can get you can get that from configuration as well as the actions. And then you kind of have this holistic picture of, okay, now I know that I can proactively mitigate risk. And so we have a product called Beam that is essentially the way that we help agents make better decisions over time with risk-aware decision guidance. So really meeting agents where they are. And it's so important because agents are not like traditional software. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I hear all the time when I speak to customers is I have all these processes that are architected to help me onboard traditional software. I'm pretty confident in my ability to risk assess that. This is now essentially in the same kind of a box as traditional software, except it's operating on its own. It's making its independent decisions. It has tool configurations that may have hidden risks that I don't know about. And so it's really balancing a huge amount of surface area in systems and processes that weren't really designed to do that. And that's exactly why we created Jordi. That's what we're building to help with, to mitigate those risks and also make sure that they can keep operating and be resilient.
Yeah. And I think on the risk part as well, there is a component, of course, that is regulatory. So you'll get a picture within Jordi of, your compliance to various different bits of regulation, whether it be, ISO 42001, the EU AI Act, you can keep going on from there. Also kind of internal policy considerations too. And that's where we dive into not just the regulatory part, which of course impacts operations, but we really dive in on that operational risk, operational resilience, and kind of internal policy that you as an organization care about. And then how is your agentic use ultimately, in line with how you care about your risk posture with internal policy and operations. So with Jordi, you get that kind of relatively complete picture. Of course, we're early stage, we're adding stuff day by day, week by week, but we're trying to empower people not just to think about this from a regulatory perspective, which is really, really important, especially for a lot of the organizations we're working with, but also like the realities of operational risk with agents, and then enable the security teams to be, as we've been saying all along, an enabler in this massive moment of technological change and unlocking operational leverage for their business.
We want to help them to partner with the business, because that's really where you're going to be able to create that sustained pace. Because again, it's operational resilience. It's not just getting a pilot up and running. It's making sure that this task-enabled digital employee is able to function, and also having reportability, being able to go through your security incident workflows, like really having that visibility. So an early customer story, we were deploying and they weren't quite sure what they were going to see. They were, piloting a few different things, but they weren't exactly sure what was going to happen. And within 10 minutes, basically they were like, I didn't know any of this was there. And this is by no means done, but this is already super valuable. And so I think there's kind of this immediate value point around how agents are actually configured, what their posture is. And then there's a longer term value piece of, okay, how does the risk intelligence help us to operate safely?
Yeah, because I think with security, there's just a traditional or older problem of security disattachment from business outcomes and goals. And like you giving the visibility first of all, but then being that enabler for growth is really powerful.
Yeah, it's really important right now. Just so important. And actually, I don't think businesses can succeed without that partnership. And without the security team playing a really active role in enabling this operational change. I mean, this operational change is very technology driven, rather than just being, humans interacting with software. All of a sudden you have agents completing tasks, and the security teams are so important in enabling that change. And really, you're seeing also a bunch of projects stall and struggle without security team being in there soon enough and being able to partner with the business. Whereas then when we get to play a role in partnering with them and other amazing teams doing stuff on their own too, you're seeing actually business success. And we like to be a part of that.
And it's really important to understand, because they've had so much momentum with just generative AI. So really understanding the difference between a generative AI, like an initiative like a chatbot, versus an agent, and really understanding that it's not as prompt focused, it's more across the business, and also it's able to make decisions that aren't predetermined. And so you really have to have that agent native, agent specific context to enable operations to succeed. Because if you're just thinking generative, you're just thinking prompts and data, that's a very small fraction of the agent's life cycle.
Yeah, and maybe we'll touch on that, because I feel like for the average listener, they might not know or be able to distinguish what the difference is. And there's a clear difference. So are you able to just give you painted some insight there, but some more insight?
She teaches me this stuff all the time.
I'm learning now as well, so I'll listen.
Anytime. So if you think about what makes an agent agentic, the key thing is the decision making. That is the anchor point that you have to remember, is that they're making decisions on their own based on the things that they're interacting with every day, a lot like people do. It's not the same as, sentience. It's not artificial general intelligence. It's just delegated decision making. And so large language models often operate as the core of that. So they often are the reasoning center. They help kind of decide what, specific paths are going to be taken by the agent. And then there's other components that are the tools that the agent's equipped with to actually let it interact with the real world. And also some of the memory components and There's some agents that are able to critique themselves and improve their performance over time. But really, if you're thinking like a baseline definition, what's the minimum viable? It's a large language model with at least one tool. And again, it doesn't have to be a large language model. There's lots of other machine learning that you can use with agents, but the most common ones we see are large language models with at least one tool. And so that gives you the ability to not only plan, decide, and act, but then also continue to operate over time, which is the real unlock. Because in generative systems, everything that you get is the outcome of a prompt. So the better the prompt, the better the outcome. Prompt engineering. With agents, you're giving them instructions. And initially, especially with early trials, you might have more human in the loop checkpoints. So you might have more prompts. But longer term, what your ideal is that you give them an initial instruction set. You maybe give them a couple of prompts and then they operate. So they could go for a week, a month. You know, a lot of the testing that they're doing in universities is like multi-month tasks. And so if you think about like what it would take to do an audit now, a whole of business audit, you could potentially set agents up to do that and not have any human downtime, and the humans just review the results. Like what an unlock operationally for things that people would be bogged down with right now for months, years, potentially, depending on the task.
Size. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, an organization, massive enterprise organization, that could be years.
Yeah.
That's done in, what, I don't know, minutes potentially, or hours.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe a week. Let's give the agents some time.
Look, we're all optimists.
No. And then, so Jordi, for those that might not have seen the announcement, hopefully they have.
Yeah.
For those that haven't seen the announcement, are you able to just give us an update on what's happened in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. Well, look, we came out stealth. So we raised a seed round a little while back with the guys at General Catalyst and 1011, two great funds and a whole bunch of awesome angels and some other micro VCs who supported us in it. So we raised the seed with them. It's been awesome. We've come out of stealth. But we've known those guys for a while. The guys at 1011 we've known for a very long time. So Dave Palmer was one of the founders of Darktrace, and they were one of the early backers of Darktrace. So I've known them for many years at 1011, and they're just wonderful partners, absolutely wonderful. So we love working with them, and General Catalyst have been fantastic too. Mark Crane there. And so, we've been backed by them. We've been working really hard, building an awesome team. And we came out of stealth recently, really because we're ready for more customer interactions at this point.
Yeah.
And we're having so many great conversations and POCs and whatnot right now that have come really directly off the back of us coming out of stealth, and that being a moment whereby you can both reconnect with people, but also people can do their own discovery now on us.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to stay in stealth too long. Not that we have a problem with those that do, but we want to get out there and solve people's problems and make sure they can work with us and build with us as they get to grips with agents themselves.
Well, so much of what we do is centered on enablement, right? On giving people extra resources that they can take back to the business. That's true in our product. We talk a lot about reporting and executive summaries and really enabling the security team to speak the language of the business. But also on our website, like we want to be able to post blogs really competently and constantly, and also podcasts. We want to be able to publicly give those resources so that then security teams know that we are that partner. Like we're not just with you to get a trial set up, we're with you for your lifetime.
Yeah. Practice what you preach.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
And build around it. No, it's exciting times for you guys for sure. And what's next then? So growth potentially into the US, is that on the cards?
Yeah, we actually just appointed a COO based out in the US who we worked with for some time, an absolutely awesome guy. His name's Josh. So that's
Josh
in New York.
Big shout out to Josh.
Big shout out to Josh.
Yeah, this week.
Yeah, he's in London this week.
Amazing.
But and we've got first hire coming in Boston as well, on the East Coast. So we're starting with the US from day one. Obviously, I've lived there, worked out there. Hanah is actually from there. You can't necessarily tell it in the accent.
I did not know this.
But Hanah is from the US. It was US government intelligence services that she worked for. So we've done plenty in the US, but engineering teams in the UK, and we'll be there for a while. And I think for us, we're just focused on solving customer problems right now, working with the early customers, and helping partner with them on their journey with agents so that they can say yes to innovation, but also do that without unleashing the risks.
Yeah.
And that's what we're just focused on right now, focus on the customer.
Yeah. And what's next in terms of like the space and the insights that you have from speaking to the CISOs and security leaders? What do you think is going to happen potentially in the next 6, 12 months and beyond?
Yeah, so it was funny when Henry and I started in April, he was like, I've had so many conversations with CISOs before this. I know like pretty much the adoption palette. And I'm like, I would bet you in 6 months, they're going to be in a totally different spot. And you're like,
She was right.
And I was right. Let it be a lesson. But so basically, we've seen so much momentum already just in the last few months where people who were like, I'm not looking at agents, I'm not thinking about agents, they're not in my plans, are now like, so fun fact, I'm now looking at agents and the business is adopting them. And so I need to have resources. And so we're seeing that momentum pick up for adoption, I think pretty much across most industries in some use cases. I think the important kind of pivot point now is you need to prove value in those early use cases. So you need to really be able to demonstrate how not only that function is working, because you don't just want to think in tools, you want to think in capabilities, right? Like, how is this capability added onto our processes? And then you want to build momentum. So you don't just want to have kind of isolated pilots. You want to have, with visibility and governance, you want to have the ability to scale that. You want to be able to impact your whole of business operations, both top and bottom line. And so I think you're going to see, again, it go from just really early adopters to more momentum around kind of pilots and safe experimentation and trials. And then I think over the next 6 months, you're going to see that momentum from people who get it right. You're going to see a lot of trajectory with AI agents because you already have some early success stories from really big players that have gone all in.
I think from, there's lots of people that we're working with who have already got on a fair way down that journey, and like coding agents are proof in the pudding, right? How many engineering organizations are leveraging coding agents? How many security teams know how many coding agents they have, how they're configured, what they're doing, what they're connected to.
Well, and they're becoming an employee value proposition. Like, that's the latest tech.
So from that perspective, we're already seeing the value, pull through. And I think the other interesting dynamic is going to be the buy versus build on agent front. So a lot of the stuff early on that we were seeing within the enterprise was more down the kind of buy route, down the build route rather than the buy route, because ultimately, there were enterprises out there going, hang on, these guys over here have built something in 3 months, and we've got a massive engineering organization. Why do we need to necessarily? We can stick people, and everyone's figuring this out right now. So we're going to build this ourselves. But obviously, there's been a hell of a lot of investment in the agentic space. Lots of amazing startups started a lot of it in customer support and coding agents, but it's really branching out into every function within the business. And people are building, very capable agentic functions and tools for every part of the business, for every function. And so what we're really starting to see is, hang on a sec, we need to bring other vendors in who know how to bring best-in-class agents to the fore for this function, this function, this function. But there's a challenge when that happens. You need visibility across those various different platforms that those agents are operating from and also operating with. And that's really where Jordi comes in, right? So we help you see, what agents do I have across systems? So it's not just whether you built them yourself, it's across systems, whether that be coding agents, whether that be applications like Copilot Studio or others, or whether that be verticalized agentic platforms. We then help you know how they're configured, what they're doing, and with a deep understanding there, what risks exist for your business. And then with Beam, as we hit on earlier, we help you mitigate that risk in real time, proactively with the context the agent needs. And so for us, I think that kind of buy versus build dynamic is a really important one that we see playing out, but we can partner with businesses there by helping them understand their risk across the full surface area.
And it's a really important thing to address because it's such a common myth that you have to choose buy or build. And AI agents will always be an ecosystem. They're narrow and deep technology. They're the best when they're specialized. And so you want something that's going to fulfill a specific capability, not necessarily every requirement the business needs. And so you'll absolutely have cases where you'll build something yourself. But you'll also have cases where you'll use low code, no code, or you'll buy something that fulfills the capability you need so that you can meet all of your various functional capability requests. And so I think it's a really important point because once you get to the next layer, which is like teams of agents, orchestration, like full agent systems, you don't have to build all that yourself. Like the best enterprises are the ones that know how to diversify and fill the function rather than just looking at the tool.
And it all just ties back into the enablement piece, doesn't it?
100%.
And I feel like looking at time, we probably need to wrap. So I feel like we can just keep going. We're going to have to do a 2.0.
I thought we had a couple of hours left.
We're 2.0. It's got to be maybe give it 12 months because I'd love to see where you guys have got to and the changes in the space, and the adoption. But it's an absolute pleasure to have you guys on. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
Thank you for having us.
It's been a
That's
treat.
the last thing. It's been a treat.
It has been
you
a
made
treat.
the trip from Bournemouth to see us.
I got shout this out. A couple of hours. No, it's all right.
I mean, it's not quite going over to Vegas with Black Hat. But,
I know. Yeah, it was. Well, this has been a great little studio, and it's a pleasure to finally get this done. Glad you guys are out in the public eye now. So anyone that's listening to this, how can they reach out, by the way, if they want to?
Yeah, go to Geordie.ai. GEORDIE.ai.
The only spelling test needs to pass.
Yeah, only one I need to pass ever again. So go there, but also Henry Comfort, Hannah Marie Darley. Find us on LinkedIn. You can see Geordie AI on LinkedIn too, and reach out however we can help. Even if you just want to grab a coffee and talk about agents, we're up for it.
Come find us.
There you go. Love it. Thanks again, guys.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.